Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. It's been a big year already. We've hit the ground running. We've had some big guests and appreciate everyone's support coming on the show. As I always say, if you're new here, thank you so much for coming along. Give us a like and subscribe. It's how we grow. And if you've come back, I absolutely love you now. As you'll see throughout some of the episodes through the year, I've done some work with Dabble. We're doing some great streams, and it's been a great place to work because I've also got to meet some great people. And one of the men that is on the show today, you'll know him for his AFL heroics, but his banter's second to none in Heath Shaw. So thank you for coming on the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. And I do like the name, Unlaced.
Do you?
Yeah, and because obviously during my footy career, you're doing up your boots, and I was so specific about how my boots went on. Left foot first, then right foot, and they had to be the same tightness and everything. I'd do them. It'd take me like 10, 15 minutes to get it right. Yeah, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Were you a superstitious guy when you played?
Next level. Like OCD to the max. I've got ADD, so the OCD comes with that. My wardrobe's colour coordinated.
Oh, so it's off the field as well?
Yeah, off the field. Oh, mate, they're in my fridge when I have food and drinks in the fridge. I am a single guy with not much in the fridge.
I was going to say, are you hard to date because of that? Like, did chicks get around that because you're kind of clean and precise? And
I'm clean and precise, but I'm assuming I'm hard to date since I'm 37 and single.
Yeah, no way, mate. I'm on my way there. I could be there. I could be calling you for
record
advice.
speaks for itself, so it's not a hard thing to figure out, is it?
Oh well. Like speaking of your career, I knew you were a great player, and I was quite young when you were playing, which says a bit about you. But 325 games. I didn't actually know that you played that many games. Like
top 1%.
Top
of all
1.
time.
Is that truth?
That's true.
Top 1%.
Top 1%. Yeah.
Premiership player. 2-time All-Australian. That was before you left Collingwood, and you got an Anzac Day medal as well.
I did. I got that. I think that was in 2007.
Yeah, that's was only a few years into your career.
Yeah, I had a good game that one. I played on James Hird, gave him a bath. No issues there.
Do you enjoy your life now more not being in AFL football, or did you enjoy it more back then?
I sort of break it down into sort of two sections of my footy career. It was like the first part, which was at Collingwood, where you like an 18-year-old, you come in, you love footy and you just want to play every week, and then you want to go to nightclubs on the weekend. And then when I left Collingwood, I was lucky enough to win the premiership, and then when I left Collingwood, it was to a brand new club that hardly existed. I was 28 and I sort of became like a leader amongst those guys because I was more experienced than them. It was simple as that. There was 18, 19-year-olds, 40 of them. There, and I had to be the one sort of helping leading the charge and try and get them up to a level to play AFL. So that part, I was sort of a bit more mature, even though I'm immature, a bit more mature in my career. But the start, like I definitely enjoyed. Being just one of the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some heroics around that for sure, which we'll dabble into. And pardon the pun, but what is it that you're doing with yourself now? Because obviously we've sort of come to acquaintances at Dabble, which I know you'll touch on and speak a bit about what you're doing. But anything else that you're doing as well? Are you kind of are you full time? You going all
I'd say I'm semi full time. It's the first ever job I've had at Dabble. I do a little bit of the marketing stuff and a little bit in looking after our talent and partnerships. So it's different for me. The corporate world definitely doesn't suit me. But I'm learning all the time, and Dabble's a great place to learn because they're pretty chilled, they're pretty relaxed. So that's part of my role. I'm playing local footy still because I get my local footy hit.
Are you bouncing around like Swanee? Are you going to different clubs, or are you picking one club?
No, I'm not a footy slut like Swanee. I stick to one club, East Keilor, the Cougars, great name. Coming into my third year there. So looking forward to that. And as I said, I'm getting a bit older, so might be my last year. And then I do a couple of little ambassador roles. I'm super coach ambassador. The AFL season coming up.
Oh, apparently you're unbelievable at this as well, because I floated this idea into Dabble. We should do a Dabble super coach, and like, you don't want to do that because you're not going to win. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, Heath's like renowned.
Well, I'm not bad, but a couple of our guys, a couple of our traders are very, very good. They've got the stats. So, and they've told me that as well. But just a couple of things like that, but pretty chilled and just enjoying my time and life outside of footy, which is a bit different.
Yeah, I bet. And it's probably a big change for you because you played so much of your life in footy, but even more so, your family history is pretty insane. Like, I obviously knew you were related to Tony Shaw, but then your dad as well was a 150-game player for Collingwood and captained them.
Yeah, we
fucking no pressure on you.
Nah, not at all. It was Tony played 313. Dad 146, Reese 256, me 325, and my Uncle Neville 43. So we clocked up 1,000 games as a family, we were the first sort of family to do that, which is a big achievement. And I just think it's 1,000 weekends.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weekends.
That's a lot.
So it is a massive achievement, and we don't really talk about that much. We only talk about who was the best, and obviously it was me. Out of all those, but
who would you say? Like, if you take yourself out of the equation, maybe because
my Uncle Neville, who played 43 games, was the most talented out of everyone.
Really?
Yeah, he just enjoyed the lifestyle more than the hard work.
So there's the short aspect coming out.
That was the short part. He got to 43 games. The rest of us faked it through a few more years. But Neville was the most talented. Tony was probably the least talented of the lot, and he just worked hard, and he was just a grunt. And he played, captained, won the Norm Smith in a premiership. So
what was that?
1990.
1990. That's right.
And then 20 years later, we won.
Fuck me. That must have been pretty surreal.
Yeah. Mate, winning a premiership is one thing. Winning a premiership for your childhood club, and winning a premiership after your family have sort of done that as well. Poor Dad, he lost 4 grand finals. So for me to win one was not a bad effort. But we savoured the moment, and you appreciate it more now that you're finished.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, at the time we thought we were going to win like 4 in a row, and we ended up winning 1. So that was probably the only sort of disappointing part. But those moments are like surreal, and then you get to share those moments as Collingwood boys do, and as we did as a team each year when we go for the reunion.
Yeah, Swanee's talking. I think we've cut that up before, where Swanee spoke about the best part about winning a premiership in Swanee's tone is like, instead of talking about what it meant to him and like the dream, is the annual lunch every year, and like people get a bit older, the grey hairs, people are losing hairs, but the stories and the banter just never dies.
Oh, the stories change every year. I think I forget what actually happened in that game. But yeah, it is. We organised a 5-year reunion, and then we liked that so much we did 6, and then we did 7, then we did 8. Missed 9 and 10 during COVID, but then we made up for it this year. So it's good. We don't get everyone there. Like, we try to get as many as possible, but we get a fair group of guys there, and everyone looks forward to it. That's for sure.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
How much pressure did you feel as a junior, being like with your family history? Was that ever a thing internally, like at home, like you've got to, or like the eyes on you from other kids? Because I can imagine
there was a little bit for me, but obviously Reese is 4 years older than me, so he was the first son coming through under obviously Tony and my old man. So he was the first one. He had more pressure. He played Vic. He was all Australian under 18, and then he rolled into father-son at Collingwood, and the pressure was sort of lumped on him, and it took him a while to figure it out. Like it took me a while to figure it out as well. And I think everyone sort of goes through their learning curves when they're in their first couple of years, but the pressure wasn't as much on me because Reese was in front of me, and then I came to the club under Reese, and he sort of guided me through, and I followed in his footsteps. Most of the things I did, whether it was like obviously training hard and how you actually get to play a game, or sometimes the off-field indiscretions that I followed him as well. So as you do your older brother, you do everything they do, you copy them as much as you can.
You've got a great CV from like 03 to 08 off-field.
Some good. Some people learn after one mistake. It took me, I think it took me 3. So
but then at least
we got there.
You had about 5 others though, as the turn the Rat Pack came, that were all the same. So.
It's just the Rat Pack was just a bunch of guys that like hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
And just we're in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot.
But then Swanee also said on the big moments on the big stage, it was probably one of you guys that was standing up and making a difference, which kind of was the heroic nature of the Rat Pack too. Yeah,
I don't think anyone questioned, like when we worked hard at training and we played hard game day. I don't think anyone questioned that, but they questioned our professionalism when it came to outside of that. But like Mick, he probably would never admit it. He loves the Rat Pack because he knew game day he can rely on those guys because they've got obviously a bit of mongrel, bit of scallywag about them, but when it comes to the crunch, they'll put their hand up and they'll go. So Mick, yeah, as I said, he probably won't admit that he loved this because we obviously gave him a few of those grey hairs, but
he never got rid of yours.
He didn't. He looked after us too a lot, and that's why we still treasure every time we do have the premiership reunion. Mick's always there.
Oh, good. So when did you realise like AFL was an option? Like it was clear your ability wise, you obviously had the father-son relationship, but when did you actually know yourself like this is going to happen?
I think as a real young junior, I was a really good player. I reckon from sort of under 10s up to under 14s, I was sort of real good. Won a couple of like obviously best and fairest and that at your local club and all that. And then I had a bit of a flat patch. And then I didn't know whether footy was for me. I wasn't like, not that I wasn't enjoying it, but I was just like, I was like out parties and chasing girls and all that sort of thing. And you just sort of go with the flow. And then I got a bit more serious when I was like 16. And, you have the like Northern Knights, a selection under 18s, and you want to get picked for that so you can have a crack at making the AFL. And that's where I sort of knuckled down a little bit more and really had a go at it. I wasn't as good as like I would have, honestly, if I wasn't father-son, I don't know where I would have got drafted. I might have just scraped in. Didn't play Vic Metro under 18s.
Didn't you? So you went and you still, because I think you went in the 30s or 40s or something, father-son?
48.
48.
Bargain at 48.
Yeah, well, even hindsight.
Definitely. But like even my first 2 years at Collingwood, after being drafted, there was probably question marks on whether I would actually play a game or even make it. So it took me a while, as I said before, to actually figure it out and what it takes to play AFL and what it takes to be an AFL footballer. But when I did, it makes life so much easier because you just have this set way and then you just go and then you just repeat.
Right.
And then for me, it was like, don't accept mediocrity. Like obviously I'm a competitive beast, don't want to lose anything. And that sort of held me in good stead. And then you build up on the skills and you build up on the smarts through learning off other players. Jimmy Clement, Presty, Ben Johnson, my brother, these sort of guys that I was playing in the back line in and around. I take bits and pieces of each of them and then put it into my game and hopefully that holds me in good stead for week after week after week. And for me, it was probably a 2.5 year learning curve to get to that point. Yeah. And then from then on, it was easy.
Was the change room you walked, because did you get drafted at 17? Because back then, 03, it was like people, like I think Swanee was as well.
Yeah.
Well, the change room you walked into would have been pretty formidable at the time. Like Collingwood were just fresh off like losing to the Lions finals, and do you know what I mean?
Oh no, definitely. It was like they were a very good team. Anthony Rocker, Bucks, Tarkin Lockyer,
Lucuria,
Jimmy Clement, Paul Lucuria. Like these are all guys I watched as a kid and I loved watching. And then I was sitting in the locker room with them and competing against them. So the best thing is when you're competing against the best, you learn more. And I was like learning as I was going. And like I said, Jimmy Clement was probably the number one guy. I learned my trade off one-on-one, really, really good, very skillful, and sort of his decision-making around take the risk or play it safe out of the back line is something that I had was pretty much cemented in the back of my head when I had him yelling at me from the back line for most of my junior or some of my early days. So, I'd say Jimmy was the guy I learnt the most off, but you take bits and pieces out of everyone.
Just on him, he's I don't know if he ever meant it because I don't know if he's that type of guy, but he's tucked in shirt with the Predator boots. I used to think that guy was the sexiest footballer going around because I'm like, this guy just looks the part.
Old school,
yeah.
Black boots,
tucked in,
shorts pulled up probably a little bit too high. Same as Bucks, just like right up near the belly button. Yeah, just give him a little. Yeah, just sit him on the hips, boys. But yeah, he was socks up as well. And part of the reason, not because I copied Jimmy having my socks up for my whole career, but I just remember before my first game. Mick's like, how you feeling? And I'm like, yeah, not too bad. He goes, you nervous? I go, oh, yeah, a little bit. And he goes, pull your socks up. And I was like, all right. And he goes, if you're not going to play like a football today, at least look like one. And so I was like, is that a compliment or is that like, is he giving me a sledge or whatever it was? So I pulled the socks up and I never wore my socks down after that game. So it's very rare these days you see guys with their socks up apart from ruckman, but I don't know what it is. I just always wore them up. And
you still do it today for the Cougars?
I still do it, yeah. I still do it for the Cougars until I start cramping in the last quarter and I push the socks down. But Yeah, it was just something like talking about superstitions. It was just something I did, and it was my process to get out there and to play.
Yeah. Just speaking on the Cougars, for those at home, go on YouTube and watch Heath when he's mic'd up. It's really good, actually. Yeah, I think the first minute you get tackled or thrown down and the mic comes off, and then when it comes back on, geez, it's good value.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's a good, like, it was good fun, and it's always good fun because it's good insight, and as much as you know you've got it on.
Yeah.
During the game, you're in the heat of the moment, you forget about it, and then you remember, and then you forget about it. So there's some stuff there that obviously gets beeped out, a fair bit of it. But it's a good insight into just local footy as much as AFL footy, but local footy as well. And I enjoy playing, and same thing, I'm still competitive. I want to win every week. But I know my limitations a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Well, this question might not make any sense at all, but just giving you a very sort of process and tick the box through the week for getting preparation, like these non-negotiables. Are there any sort of standout non-negotiables you had to try and get yourself to that level when you sort of had that, the initial years were a bit slow for you or getting used to this sort of AFL world?
Yeah, I always, and even to this day, I like, and sometimes it's out of my control, but I like to train as I play. And I know it sounds really stupid and really basic, but you train as you play, and you kick the footy like you would kick it in the game. Like a lot of people, you kick him with your teammate at the start of training, and it's like straight kicks, 20 metres.
Yeah.
Like how often do you do that in a game?
Yeah, okay.
So I'm like around the corner, face it rolled on the ground.
Weaving ghosts.
Yeah, have a bounce. And then a lot of guys and a lot of clubs, a lot of players do they call it doing touch, and you're handballing back and forth to each other like tram tracks and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, when do you do that during the game?
Yeah.
That's just bullshit.
Yeah.
So I never did it. And everyone's like, why aren't you doing touch? I go, because it's bullshit. I'd rather someone just like pegging balls or kicking balls into my hands so I'm getting that touch. And so for me, everything I did was for a purpose, and that purpose was related to footy. So training was important. The day before training, the captain's run, I'd have a little bit of a go. I'd get a good blowout,
right?
Just so that I'm ready for the next day. I don't want to come in like stiff or sore. So I'd have a good go, get a lot of kicks in, get a bit of touch, and so I'm ready to roll the next day.
So when did you sort of feel? What year was it where you're like, I'm at AFL level now? Like the game's clicked. I feel comfortable. I've sort of built my pedigree, and where sort of people know me, and I'm getting picked every week. When did that start to happen for you?
It was my third year, and it was funny because I did the old talking about pre-season, had a good pre-season, did everything right, and then didn't get picked for round one.
Oh, fuck.
So Mick didn't pick me for round one, and I was fucking livid. Then didn't get picked for round two, and then played in the reserves the day before on the Saturday, and then Scott Burns was sick on the Sunday, and I got the call up saying, hey, mate, did you go out last night? Team manager, did you go out last night? And I'm like, no, mate, why? He thought I was lying, obviously. I said, no, I didn't. I was actually a bit sore from the game. And he's like, well, you better get to the club and do some recovery because there's a big chance you'll be playing today. And I was okay. So I went to the club and I was like doing some recovery stuff in preparation just in case Burnsy wasn't able to get up because he was crook. And I'm like, geez, might be a chance here. That must be pretty serious. Burnsy texted me, said there's no chance I'm playing. You're playing because he was so crook. And so I went out there.
That wasn't your first game?
No, that was in my third year. Played like 60% game time. Had 20-something touches. And we had a good win against the Kangaroos. And I just remember Ben Johnson's like, he goes, this is it.
Yeah.
And then from then on, we just, I didn't miss a game.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. So that was sort of the moment. Even the fact that Mick didn't pick me for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he made me work hard to get my first game, made me work hard to get that game, held me in good stead going forward. And I knew as soon as I did that, I'm like, I won't miss a game now.
Yeah.
I will never be dropped. I'll be suspended for indiscretions off the field and all that, but I will never be dropped due to bad form because I had that confidence.
Yeah. So your sort of like mental aspect seems like it was a strength because you probably being who you are, you would know that having that period of good preseason and not getting dropped can go one or two ways mentally. So sort of the way you reacted, I don't know how you reacted, but to come back in and sort of cement your spot, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not, but you just got to people can call it arrogance, but I have so much confidence like when I went out to play that I'm going to beat my opponent because I've done the work.
Right.
even if sometimes I'm a little bit off, and sometimes you get beaten. Like there's no doubt about that. But I still went into every game thinking I'm going to win and I'm going to be the best player. If you don't have that sort of mindset, if you're going in there, go, I'm worried about this guy, he might get a hold of me. Then you like they're winning half the battle, or that's half the battle done. So for me, it was like I'm confident I'm going to beat this guy because I know this, and this about myself or about them. But I had the confidence each week, and I backed it up with performances that I could actually do it,
right?
And I could do it on the big stage. And that when you do that, the confidence builds from there. And I think there's probably a fine line between being arrogant and being really, really confident. And I think at times people probably thought I'd tipped over to the arrogant side. But for me, it was just like that confidence in what I do. I know I can perform.
Yeah. So it's funny we're talking about like pressure in workplaces before. I feel like Collingwood pressure-wise is probably the biggest in the country when it comes to sport in regards to expectation, fan base, all that sort of stuff. Did you ever feel that, particularly in the early days, especially with your family history? It's like a lot more eyes are looking at you with sort of Tony and your dad and Neville or whatever.
It's weird because you go in and you just want to play a game.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, you're like enjoying your football. But then you realise that like each week you got 2 hours to perform and win, and there's so many people watching you. And then so it's not like the pressure is overwhelming, but when you think of it like that, when you break it down, there's 100,000 members and all those people want you to win, and they're watching every kick you do, and it's on video.
Right.
And so if you stuff up, they can highlight it, and they can show it. And it's like you don't have that in a workplace, in the office. You don't highlight every mistake you make, but on the footy field, it is there. It's there to be shown. It's black and white. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But it's something that like you can either enjoy it, embrace it, or it can get a hold of you. And for me, at times, the pressure was like all time, and you're playing in the back line, and if you make a mistake, it's a goal the other way.
Yeah.
So that pressure's like obviously at its level, but if you enjoy it and you thrive on it, and when you win or you do something special in a game that helps your team and people remember it, then that's like the really good part, and that's that's what you want. Yeah. That's what feeds that desire and drive.
I'm going to go through your career more, but just to talk about that particularly, because I find like, I don't know what repeats the adrenaline hit you get when you walk in the MCG for the Pies. Did you have like, especially with ADD, did you have like an adrenaline dump that you were sort of chasing post-footy career with that sort of stuff? Or did it not really bother you as much?
Oh, probably didn't bother me as much because honestly, you get so used to it. I know it sounds stupid because there's 100,000 people there, but you sort of block it out and you're just in the moment.
Yeah.
So for me, it was getting used to that and getting used to playing on the big stage. But you definitely know preliminary finals, like the level, the volume at that ground is a lot higher than a normal game. Anzac Day is exactly the same. They're the two biggest games outside of a grand final is the prelim and Anzac Day.
Right.
It's huge. Everyone's watching, supporters there from both sides and ready to roll and playing in front of those crowds. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Yeah, it's freaking insane.
Like you get the opportunity to do that, and you get the opportunity. I got to play in a lot of Anzac Day games and a lot of prelims as well. I was very lucky, but you want to keep going back for it.
Yeah, that you just get addicted, I imagine.
You definitely do. And you get addicted to winning, but you get addicted to that feeling throughout the game and then after the game when you do win.
Gotcha.
So winning on the big stage, and Mick always spoke about performing on the big stage. He always he would pick someone who was on the fringe, who he knew would perform, who has performed on the big stage over someone who's been a gun throughout the year, but he knew he'd fail.
So he knew that well. He knew you guys that well that he could make a calculated decision like that and feel confident that this guy he knows will play big in big games.
Yeah, he's the best, and this is a bit of a soccer term, player manager.
Was he really?
Going around, yeah. He tactically was good. He made his moves and all that sort of stuff and game plans, but he knew how to get people to their peak or to lift each week.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, I'm going to smash Heath telling me shit, knowing he leaves the lift. He's been down the last couple of weeks because I know he'll pump up. I need to pump up this guy because his confidence is low a bit. I know if I give him a rev up here and pump him up, he'll perform. So it's like he knew how to he could read players really well, and he knew how to push their buttons. And that's why he lasted so long.
Yeah, okay. Well, do you see him as like an old school coach now, or do you think his style, because I think player managers is like 3/4 of the job in professional level, really, because if the players are good enough, there's obviously just a few X's and O's you got to do to.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if he.
Or has the guard changed a bit now?
But the guard has changed. It's obviously a lot more tactical.
Is it really? Okay.
Now in terms of like all the vision you get and you know exactly what the opposition are doing and all that sort of stuff. So it's the guard's definitely changed in that regard. But if I was coaching an AFL team, I'd have Mick as my assistant. Yeah.
Oh, that's golden.
Yeah, because you know if he would be there guiding me, but then also picking up things that I don't pick up.
So you hold him in the highest regard.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's
100%.
That's unreal. Hey guys, just a quick pause in this episode to let you know that I have partnered with Dabble this year. Share the experience. Now, Dabble is a online betting platform. It is absolutely unbelievable. Very similar to Instagram where you can follow people and copy their bets. Now, you guys may have seen me do some World Cup streams through the World Cup, talking about the World Cup, building bets, which we were very successful at. So we are going to be doing that every week from Tuesday nights, 7 to 8 on the Dabble YouTube platform. So come along, let's talk about sport, football, whatever it may be, and build some multis that are going to get up. I'll be there 7 p.m. every Tuesday on the Dabble YouTube. Let's get back into the episode. I got a curly one for you. This is about the Rat Pack, but who out of the Rat Pack would you want to be stuck on an island with and why? And who wouldn't you and why?
I definitely wouldn't want to be stuck with Ben Johnson. He lived with his mum and dad until he was about 28. And his mum packed his bag to go to footy and footy training every night. So it's definitely true. So Ben Johnson's a no. I don't reckon he's ever washed his undies.
Yeah. He's probably definitely not going to watch this, so we're safe here as well.
Yeah. And I'll probably be stuck with Swanee because he finds a way. Like he's very intelligent.
Yeah,
Swanee.
he is. He dumbs himself down.
Yeah, but he's very intelligent. He knows a lot about a lot. Some of it's shit, but a lot. He knows a lot about like general knowledge stuff that I think would be handy.
Right. Who out of the Rat Pack was the most fun on a night out? Like when you look back on it, outside of yourself, of course.
Well, my best mate's Alan Didak, so we got along pretty well, and I wouldn't really hang around with someone who wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So he definitely was like the class clown.
Was he really?
And especially even around the change rooms and all that sort of stuff. Very, very witty, very funny, and just enjoyed having a good time.
Do you miss do you miss the change room? I mean, I guess you get a hit at East Keilor, but
it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not because it's not every day.
No, it isn't, and it's still good rocking up on a Tuesday at East Keilor and listening to what the boys did on the weekend. As a 37-year-old now, but like you said, the change room, like every single day, something will happen, something different. Different conversation, same arguments, different arguments. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just entertaining, and you can't replicate that.
Yeah, that's what pisses. I don't know anything else. How you can replicate it.
You can't replicate that anywhere, and that's why it's so good. And people, like everyone, talks about the dressing rooms and how good they are.
Yeah, obviously at the Pies, you guys started to have your rise at the back end of the early 2000s, 09, 2010, 11, so forth. Just to go into that 2010 finals series, one thing that kind of not shook me, but I think when I spoke to Swanee about and other people that were around the Pies at the time was like internally how confident you guys were that you guys could win it. And I think the Saints for like 2 years were pretty hard to beat. Just like just Geelong pipped them here and there. When you were going into that sort of initial grand final, the first one, did you guys think you had them? Was that the sort of feeling, or did you guys know that was going to be an absolute blockbuster like it was?
We knew it was going to be a tough game, but we were confident we were going to win the game. And I say this to a few guys, jokingly but serious. That was like one of the first games I've been nervous.
Really?
One of the only games I've been nervous for was my first grand final. Like
were you not a nervous bloke before those things?
Not before a game. No.
You're a bit fucking weird.
Just cruising, like in the change rooms, like looking at people picking on like the guys that are like full on in the zone and like bouncing the ball or smashing their head against the wall. And we're just like sitting back. Me, Swanee and Jono just like talking shit.
The Rat Packs, mate. They're just
jackets on. We always had our like jackets on, just like sitting back, relaxing. Our warm-up's on. Yep, sweet, let's go. But for me, that game, I was actually nervous because I'm like, this is what you've wanted to do for like your whole career.
Yeah.
Is to win one. And I've got the opportunity to win one. And I'm like, what if we don't? The doubt comes in and the thought process, which is opposite to what most of my career was like, is like, what if we don't? Sort of thing. So I was a bit nervous before that one, but we were still like confident our best would win. At the end of the day, lucky that the ball bounced one way and lucky that we got the draw because play an extra 5 minutes and we're in big trouble. But flip that the next week.
Fucking destroyed.
Couldn't be more confident. in my life. Obviously, I'm a betting man. Don't bet on football while I was playing only a couple of times. But if I was a betting man, I couldn't have been more confident that we were going to win the next week.
Just before we go on to the second one, what was the most memorable thing that to you to this day that stands out about that draw? Like from being on the field.
Draw.
Yeah, what was because as a fan, it was a bit of a weird sensation, but the overall game was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. I remember Goddard's mark.
Oh, yeah.
I was front and center of that mark.
That Saint, because I'm a Saints fan, I thought the Saints were going to win after that because I was like, how did Collingwood come back after that?
I was front and center. I saw that and I'm like, oh, we're in big trouble here.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ball bounced the other way and then the kicked out from fullback and then the ball came in and I actually got the ball and kicked it back out to where it was. And so I remember like I was throwing it on my boot, just getting it as far away from me as possible. And then a siren went and you just sort of like,
fuck,
what's going on?
Yeah.
It was a bit of a numb feeling.
Did you know you were going to have to come back the next week initially, or did you think like they might play an extra 5? Did you have any idea of the rules?
We actually had no idea. No.
Yeah.
And funny because the last draw and grand final before that, my old man was involved in. So bit of a coincidence there. We've done it all, the Shaw family. Yeah. But yeah, didn't have any idea. And as soon as we found out the next week, it was a little bit of relief because I'm like, all right, we get another crack at it. And no word of a lie, I reckon there was 17 guys out of the 22 that played that underperformed that first final.
Oh, so you guys had
and then so I'm like, if 2 or 3 or 4 of these guys lift, obviously I wasn't one of the 17.
Yeah.
But
hey, what were your stats game one? Do you know? Remember?
Was 27 and 28. Not that I was counting.
Yeah.
And I knew that if we just had a couple of those guys play to what they normally did, then we're going to smoke them. And we did. We put it to bed pretty early. And the memory from the second grand final was more Jono, who's the spiritual leader of the Rat Pack. After Mick's 3/4 time address, which no one was listening to because we were up by so much, we're like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
The good's this, we're going to win.
Yeah.
Jono called in me, Swanee, and Dids. And he's like, listen, boys, we've got a big week ahead. Let's just stay out of trouble. No tackling, no going back with the flight. Stay out of trouble. No, we don't want anyone to get injured because we've got a big week coming up. So it was great words of advice.
That is all time.
Great words of advice.
He's thinking about the sessions after.
the spiritual leader.
That actually would have hit a chord with you guys more than probably Mick's speech. Yeah.
And you're humming around, like you still want to play well and all that sort of thing. But you got to, the good thing about winning by the margin that we did, we got to enjoy the moment and you literally can just look around and go, how good's this? Not like it was a real tight game. You don't get that experience, but we had that opportunity and, those memories live on forever.
Mate, do you reckon, because obviously I reckon there was a mental aspect to that grand final like no other because you had to come back and the preparation and Saints probably thought they should have won it.
Yeah.
Like through that week, was that some of the stuff the Pies did through that week? Was there anything different that you think you got a mental edge? Because I think mentally you guys fucked the Saints in the end, like not just on the scoreboard and performance-wise, but they looked sort of a different team in game 2.
I think there was a big part of that was the fact that they should have won.
Right.
So their mental sort of mindset was they should have won, and we were like, we're lucky we drew.
Yeah. Okay.
We come back in and we knew we were confident from word go, and Mick was very structured about keeping everything the same. Training on the Wednesday was very skills orientated, no bash and crash or anything like that, you wouldn't do. But he kept it, meetings the same, everything the same. Didn't have the parade the second time, which was good.
Yeah.
Pretty much just rolled into it like a normal-ish game. But like I said, deep down, we were confident. We were very confident what was going to happen.
Yeah. I feel like with your career, the one thing you're most renowned for is called Smother of the Century. And I don't know, because it happened early on, didn't it? It was first quarter.
Before they hadn't kicked a goal.
Yeah, that's right.
They hadn't kicked a goal.
Yeah, which was the other fucking stab in the heart.
So,
can you talk us through that process of what happened? Because
it's so embarrassing because I played 325 games. I'm going to be remembered for a smother.
Well, yeah, it comes up everywhere. There's a 7-minute video on it on YouTube and only happened for 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, exactly. It was a spur of the moment decision, don't worry. And all the boys are laughed because they're all saying, well, the reason why the ball was in the goal square and you were by yourself and Rewalt was by yourself because you weren't on your man up the ground. And I was like, you're probably right. But and it was just the mindset was purely obviously the ball got kicked in and then kicked in again to Rewalt, and he's standing in the goal square, and I'm like running towards him, and I'm just like, you got to make an effort, like no matter what. It's a grand final, and I was sprinting towards him, and I got closer and closer and closer, and I'm like, as I was running, I'm like, geez, I'm a chance here. He's like, he took his time.
Did you know he was going to play on like straight away, or were you running back?
No, I was just running. Just
running.
Make life a little bit difficult for him.
Right.
Even if he kicks the goal, just knock him over, whatever it is.
Game of inches.
And yeah, as I got closer, I'm like, fuck, I'm a chance here. And then sort of half smothered it, like muffed it, knocked it out of his hands and went over the line. And like you don't see that on the ground, but you saw the reaction. Watched the replay, and you see the reaction of like St Kilda's coach's box, and then Rewalt and a couple of players and all that. And you're like, it was a big moment in that game.
Huge mental moment.
And they hadn't kicked the goal as well, so that helps. But did it play the part in the way that we played for the rest of the game? Probably not, but I'll say it does.
Yeah, I actually think it would too. That would have lifted me up.
Yeah, and Mick did mention it at quarter time, but very briefly.
Yeah, straight
this
on.
is the sort of effort you need to do, move on.
Yeah, okay.
So, it is a moment in history. But yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing.
So what was and forgive me for not knowing this, because I mean I do know a lot about footy, but what was the reason for you leaving the Pies? Was it you had a few too many discretions on the board, or you wanted to change, or?
I think, I didn't want to leave. Obviously Bucks was coach, and it just got to a point where we weren't really seeing eye to eye, and player and coach, and I had my opinions, which were very strong. He had his opinion, which were very strong, and
do you think it could have worked if or do you reckon the best decision was made in the end?
I definitely think the best decision was made.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't think that, because obviously I wanted to be at Collingwood forever.
Yeah.
But I got to move up to Sydney, got to experience Sydney, got to start at a new club, create history at a new club. And it was the best decision I made. Better for my footy, had my best years, I think.
I don't think people really, you played 150 games for GWS.
Yeah,
you played almost as many at Collingwood as you did GWS.
Yeah, life member at both.
Yeah, which is huge.
So it's like, I was there for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience for me, and going to a team where it was all young kids, like I said, and lowering the expectation. Obviously the first year, the year before they'd won one game.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling into a club that I'm a competitive beast and want to win every week, knowing that I'm not going to win like a lot of games.
Yeah.
We won 6 the first year, 11 the second year, and then 17 the third.
Yeah. When was the grand final? So
that was 2 years after that.
2 years after that. Did you play in that? No. Yeah, you did. So that's for that whole journey. That must have been fucking unbelievable.
Would have been great to finish with the premiership of both teams, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the enjoyment I had out of playing at the Giants, building history and getting to that grand final.
I haven't heard too many players that have played at GWS or been around people that have talked badly about the Giants. Why is that? Like, what's sort of special about that place?
I used to describe it as it was a local footy mindset at a professional level, and it was a lot along the lines of anyone's welcome.
Oh, okay.
Bring everyone in. We need the support. We want. Then it was like our doors are open, and a lot different to sort of what it was at Collingwood, because it's such a big supporter base. You can't let everyone in.
Yeah.
But at the Giants, we were building a club, so we're like, everyone in, access all areas, come through the change rooms, come through the club rooms, come and see us. Like, it was really good, and the way that we built the community and we built the supporter base up was purely on that.
Right.
And we got out in the community in Western Sydney. We promoted the game as much as we could,
which is another city, really, outside of like main. It's people don't understand how big Western Sydney is.
No, it's huge, and we tapped into a little part of that.
Yeah.
And they still to this day, like Western Sydney's like obviously the heartland. We moved in a little bit closer now, but it's still the heartland, and we still have massive support out there from day one when I walked in, where no one knew anything about AFL, let alone the Giants, let alone me.
Yeah.
To being in Sydney, playing in a grand final, and people on the street saying good luck.
Right.
It's like it was a really enjoyable journey.
Would you say that was where you enjoyed your footy on the field the most at the Giants, or is that sort of out of line?
There was bits of
success.
Yeah. Like at Collingwood, I enjoyed a lot of like
you had success, I guess, team success,
field, on the field, and enjoying it off the field as well. And then in Sydney, same sort of thing. It was hard work early, but then we found a bit of momentum and managed to play in a grand final, which no one would have thought after 5 years you playing a grand final.
Bloody hell. I'm just actually going to ask you an interesting question here. I'm just pulling up because we are going to go into a preview of this AFL season coming up with Heath, of course. But in your career, who, if you name a couple for different reasons you can, but who was your hardest opponent? Who's the one that gave you either the most trouble or you had the sort of most admiration for?
Steve Milne and Eddie Betts.
Really? What was it about them? They're kind of similar players in a sense, but
oh mate, they're very similar, and it is if you're not concentrating or you drop your guard for a little bit, they'll score.
Really?
And it's like Milne and Eddie were both the same, and it was like I had great battles with both of them, and yeah, it was like you knew what you were going to get and you prepared for it. But sometimes I had their measure, and sometimes they had mine, and that was the best thing about the battle. Because if you dominate someone, it's not really a battle. But we genuinely had some rippers, and at any one time or different times, like we took the cake or he took the cake.
I've heard around the footy world as well that you were great on the lip, like great on the sledge. Was there, outside of yourself, was there any other good sledges or sledges you can share that have sort of stayed with you to this day? Because that's one of the best parts about footy, I think. That
we've got a few. Like obviously Swanee's, like I said, he's very intelligent.
He would be good,
like Dids was pretty sharp too. And when we're up and flying, it's hard to sledge a team that's flying like the Pies were in their prime. So I think people just put their head down and just like dealt with it.
Yeah.
And that made it easier for us to go a bit harder. But you can only do that if you're winning. So for me, I like to pride myself on the fact that I didn't normally start sledge.
I've heard you were very good as well.
I was happy to fire back.
I've played that down, but I've heard you were top rank.
Yeah, it was. Oh mate, you got to find a way.
Yeah,
it's and it's sometimes footy's a bit of a mind game, and if you can play mind games, and I've said this to a few of the boys at East Keilor, and they think it's like pretty funny because it's not really a sledge, but it's a little bit more of the mind games. There was a player, bit of a rival of mine, and a teammate when I was at the Giants used to play with him, and I said, mate, you got to give me something on this guy because he's a good player and I want to get under his skin if things turn bad. And he's like, oh, there's not really much on him, but like he gets real like paranoid, like when people are talking about him, or he thinks like people are talking about him, or he thinks people know something about him. I was like, okay, sweet. So I went out there and it was just I don't even know if I was lining up on him or I was near him, and I was walking out there and I just said to this player, I said, I heard a rumor about you and it's not great. And I just left it at that. And so I just walked away.
Is this before the centre bounce?
This is before the bounce. And I just walked away and I was just like, that's it. I'll just see how that goes. And then I had a good game. He had an average game. And after the game, like I didn't even think about it. Like during the game, I was like, it was like, I just put it out there and saw what happened. Message to my mate who played with him. He goes, what did you say to Heath? What did you say to him about me?
No.
And Matty just showed me the message, and I started laughing. I'm like, mate, I said that like literally at the start of the game, and I totally forgot about it.
No, you didn't even.
But I'm glad it worked.
Yeah.
So that was like a little one
that's quite a dark one as well, because you've left it. You haven't even gone back.
Or they've just got some real dark secrets. They know we're out there. So and I've just tapped into a little bit of it. So
you don't even know what you've opened up.
Yeah, it was actually a real good one, and that was just a spur of the moment thing. I'm like, I'll just use it.
Yeah.
See how it goes. And it worked. So
there you go. He's sure the mind games. Now, for those at home, we got to go into the AFL 2023. It's going to be a big part of the podcast content this year. So no better than, he'll tell you himself, 325 games, premiership player. He's sure to help me run through it. But going off last year, do you remember the top 8? That's what I just pulled up for myself. I can tell you. It was
Bulldogs. I sort of remember the ones down the bottom. Richmond and Bulldogs sort of scraped in.
Yeah, Brisbane, Freo just above them.
Yeah,
and then top 4 was Pies, Swans, Demons, Geelong.
Yeah.
Who out of those do you see staying up there? Do you think that's going to change a lot? The top 8.
I think history shows that there'll be 2 changes.
Two changes.
I think it's 2 or 3.
Because most of them have traded okay.
It's hard to pick this year, I think, or who those teams are going to drop out, because Richmond recruited really well.
Yeah.
2 of the Giants boys. Don't know how they ended up with 2 gun Giants players, but yeah.
Crazy.
Brisbane have recruited really well.
Yeah.
Ended up with what was named the first round draft pick, number 1 draft pick, sorry, and
Dunkley.
Josh Dunkley.
Yeah.
So they're only going to improve from there. And then
Melbourne's got
Grundy and Hunter. Geelong just do their thing.
Yeah.
Recruited some young kids.
They got Bose from Gold Coast, didn't they, as well?
Bose from Gold Coast. And a couple others, Tanner Braun from Giants.
That's right.
And Henry from Collingwood.
Yep.
And then Collingwood, they got McStay, they got Bobby Hill, they got Tom Mitchell.
Yeah.
So all the top teams that were in the sweet spot in terms of having a tilt to the premiership have gone out and picked players to help them have a tilt to the premiership. So this year might be that outlier that the top 8 sort of stays the same. Bulldogs are the same. They've recruited well as well. Top 8 might stay the same.
Yeah, could.
I think Geelong will be favourites, Melbourne just behind them, and then Brisbane behind them.
Just quickly, how hard is it, even though Geelong, everyone sort of fancies them, and providing let's say they have a healthy year, how hard is it mentally coming back after winning a flag? Is there sort of a nature of like, fuck, it's a bit harder to get up every week, or you got more of a target on your back or anything like that?
You're probably a bit more of the hunted, but I think Geelong are just a really good club.
Yeah.
And they're such a mature club.
Yeah.
They've got old players, which helps with your maturity, but they're just mature the way they do everything. I think they announced the captain is Dangerfield, and then like the little post-it note down the bottom or the little fine print just said Chris Scott signed a 2-year deal. They didn't need to make a fanfare of it. They just put in there, it's Chris Scott signed for a couple more.
Yeah. Everyone in your era of the Pies speaks with such respect about Geelong, because I think you guys had so many wars with them.
Oh, yeah.
And they were probably the team that could get you on their day, and you could get them on your day.
They had a talented team when in around 2007 to 11.
Yeah.
Where we had some good battles with them and St Kilda.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs. But like I said, they're just a mature club, and they just do everything right.
Yeah.
They manage their players right. They treat them like adults. They get in good people. And that showed in like the fact that they've played finals for so many years, and obviously won it last year.
Do you have any teams outside the 8? I mean, Carlton's probably the glaring one that should get back in there, but any that you see significantly improving on last year?
No.
Nah.
Honestly, it's nearly the good teams have got better and the bad teams have got worse. To be brutally honest, and that's the way it is. Like it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a divide. It might be the top 10 teams, and then the rest are going to be really, really average and just fighting between themselves. A couple of those teams have young kids coming through, and they've decided to go full rebuild of the list. But I'm going to find it hard for some of these teams to look like they're going to win games of footy.
There's a big gap now, that top 4. As you just broke that down, actually, it's fucking huge.
It is. And it's the AFL wants equalisation, equalise like the teams and all that, but I think it's actually going the other way. I think the top lot of teams have actually improved maybe 10%, and the bottom, whatever it is, bottom 8 or bottom 6 have gotten worse just purely through personnel or and the way things have panned out.
Who in your opinion won the trade period? Was it like in that, because you're obviously a stats man, super coach, who for you was?
I was super impressed at the fact that Richmond not only got one, but they got two A-grade midfielders from the one team. So I thought that was gold. I think Bulldogs they've gone out and got Lobb. They got Jones as well, which like sturdies up that spine, which a good spine helps. But Melbourne have they had an unbelievable team to start with, and now they've topped it up with a gun ruck, and a gun outside mid, with good skills. So their depth has just increased, and if they're A-graders and you peak at the right time, they say marathon not a sprint, peak at the right time. They will be very hard to beat.
Yeah, I think people still don't talk about them. Like they should win every year, really, with some of their players.
They destroyed Geelong. I think it was in the prelim the year before.
Yeah, that's right.
And they won the premiership. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting season. But from what from what I can see, there's going to be some dead rubbers games.
Yeah,
There's
I
going to
can
be some
imagine.
poor games, and there's going to be some absolute rippers.
If you had the coach's hat on at Melbourne, how do you work the Grundy Gawn combo? Like, is Gawn got to go forward more, or what? Like, how does that work?
60-40.
60-40?
Yeah.
And then can Grundy go forward as much as Gawn
He can, yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
even like 70-30. I think Gorney was pretty beat up last year because he'd rucked for probably 3 years straight.
Yeah.
So it does take its toll, especially on the ruckman, because that's all they're doing, just bolting into each other. So I think Grundy was like, they'd said, yep, we need to help out Maxi, and then he can spend a bit more time forward. But then, you know what, might be an injury to Grundy at some point during the year. Max takes over. Obviously, they lost Jackson, and Grundy replaces him. So it was a great pickup, and they figured out what they needed, and they just went and got it.
Right. Who's the bloke that you love watching the most in the AFL, like currently, if it's in your position or whatever, that you've got a bit of a
I don't really like watch halfback flankers, to be honest.
Yeah, well, does anyone?
They're not that exciting at all. I think I'd.
Oh, shout out Isaac Quainer. He was on there. He can be when he gets going. I like watching him.
Yeah, no, he's a good solid halfback, running halfback.
Yeah,
like the way he goes about things. I'd say, to be honest, it would be you love watching Toby.
Yeah. Actually, just speak captaincy. You happy with that? Like,
very.
Knowing what he's like.
I like one captain.
Yeah,
traditionalist. But love watching him play. And you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love the unpredictability of Toby.
How good is he, like in your eyes, from what you got to see, obviously, even when he was younger?
At his peak, he'd be top 5 in the comp.
That good.
But in the same breath, I love watching Dustin Martin still, because when he gets the ball in his hand, the fact that he can kick it 60 metres and hit a target, not many people can do that. So that's like he's above. And then he's strong. He can take a mark one-on-one. He can go forward. He kicks goals. Plays in the midfield, gets 30. Like watching him at his peak, like which I've played on him at his peak. I've seen him at his peak. It's like he makes it look easy. So when someone makes it look that easy, like they've got something about them. And so like Toby and Dusty, I love watching them play.
Oh, I think you've answered this next one, but I was going to go into a quick 5-4, but we're going to go into a bit of a dabble section here because we do love our punting and we're going to have a prediction on a few things. But top 4 into premiership winner, what have you got? Obviously, you're not going to change it too much from what you've seen, but who's your locks for top 4?
Locks for top 4, Geelong, Melbourne.
You keep the Pies up there? Do you think Pies stay relevant?
I reckon they'll be top 6. Geelong, Melbourne, Brisbane, Richmond.
You think Richmond fly with those two? So out of that 4, who's winning? You think Geelong, Melbourne? Out of them?
I think Collingwood would come from 6th.
I think Collingwood could win.
I honestly think if they get going, they'll be better for last year. Last year there was a lot of close games. This year the draw will be a bit tougher, but they still have that belief, and belief is half the battle.
Now, some of the futures markets on Dabble, where Dabble socially, gamble responsibly, folks, of course. It's great. Get on that platform. It's one of the best. You can follow Heath and I. You can copy our bets. Obviously, Heath's get up a bit more than mine in the AFL world. But who's winning Brownlow? Brownlow, Coleman, Rising Star. Who you got?
Jeremy Cameron will win the Coleman.
Yeah,
I backed him last year and he just fell short. Rising Star, like you can go Ashcroft, but I just don't know. I don't think he's going to get a heap of midfield time. So I'll be looking at some youth in and around the average teams.
Yeah, okay.
So like St Kilda, Hawthorn, even North Melbourne. There's going to be
a bit more open this year.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of players, young players, getting games down there, so they'll have an impact. And then the Brownlow, could be like honestly, it could be a smoky in like a Nick Dacos.
Yeah, do you reckon?
It could be. Because he will play midfield this year.
Yeah.
And kicking the ball inside 50 is the hardest kick in AFL, and he does it really, really well.
He breaks lines so well.
So it could be a smoky Dacos, but you got to go with your standard. It's a midfielder's award. We know that.
Yeah.
And I think
Demons, Freo, those sort of
Clayton Oliver, like
Clayton
he's
Oliver.
been in and around. And I think he can go to another level, and he's always going to get votes. Yeah, we know he's always going to get the ball, but maybe this year it's the year where he just takes it to a little bit more of a level.
There you go, folks. Get following. What is it, Lord Heath Short?
Lord Heath Short.
It's outstanding. That's your actual email, I think, as well.
That's my email. It's everything.
which is an absolute piss take.
It's my persona. Now.
Yeah, to round this out, we ask this on every guest. This is kind of dating back to your career, but we sort of attest 3 key traits to success in sport or business, whatever it may be. Resilience, drive, or ambition. Which one of those 3? Obviously, all are important, but which one of you sort of those was critical for you for your success? If you didn't have, you wouldn't have got there.
I'll say resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, because
you seem like a resilient.
It wasn't
bloke.
given to me. Like bits and pieces were like I was father-son, so that's sort of, it's not given to you, but that's part of it. But then my first game wasn't given to me. And even when I got suspended, coming back from an 8-week suspension, going into a final, Mick never like confirmed the fact that I was going to be playing in that final.
Oh,
He said the whole time, like in his head, yeah, of course, if he's fit, he's playing, but he never let me know. So I had to wait until Thursday selection after 8-week suspension before Mick told me that I was playing. So it's like the mental game, but I think the resilient part was doing the work, making sure everyone knows it. So I'll say resilience on that one.
Heath, mate, thank you for coming on the show. You're a superstar. Love working with you at Dabble. It's been a blast, so more to come for sure.
Definitely, mate. This is great, and as I said, I love the name.
Love the name. There we go. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next week.